Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Happy Monday morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for the session on one-to-one marketing with CTV and Programmatic Media. I'm Adva Priso. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at More Digital. I've been in digital fundraising and engagement activation for almost 20 years. Started off in for-profit multicultural marketing, working with Target, Verizon Wireless on guerrilla marketing back when SMS was just starting and picture phones, and then fell into nonprofit marketing and fundraising online and fell in love, and I've been doing that ever since. And I will hand it over to Jen Miller.
Hi, everybody. Happy Monday as well. I'm Jennifer Miller, Executive Creative Director at More. I've been in direct response for over 25 years, the past 2 decades exclusively in nonprofit fundraising, and my focus is on storytelling across channels. And I will hand it over to Preston.
All right, thank you. I am Preston Linville. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Media at More Digital. I oversee the programmatic department. Started out on the commercial side, then moved over to nonprofits and just have helped just create and grow our in-house programmatic team.
All right, so some key points on what we'll go over today. So we'll cover some of the basics of what is programmatic and how it works. It'll be perhaps a refresher for some of you. For some of you, it will be new. So feel free, of course, to ask any questions you have between sections. We'll definitely pause for some of that, and feel free to ask questions in the chat as well, and we'll try to respond to those. We'll talk about the connected TV landscape. We'll talk about targeting strategies, creative considerations, and then we'll talk about getting started and case studies as well.
All right, so I'll first talk about what exactly is programmatic and then how it works from both a user perspective and what's going on in the back end. So programmatic advertising is just the method of using data to place digital ads across any device connected to the internet in real time. It encompasses many different tactics, including display, video, digital audio, native, and CTV advertising is under the umbrella of programmatic. And CTV is just it's just television that's connected to the internet, and this can include a smart TV where you can access apps directly from your television menu, or an over-the-top device like an Apple TV, Roku, Fire Stick, or even a gaming console. So programmatic ad buying allows you to buy impressions for specific people regardless of what they watch. Completely flips the script on how we've bought television for the past 80 years. So this is how this process works. On the buy side is a demand side platform, DSP, which is just our access point to the open internet. So there are 2 key pieces we can access in a DSP. That's data and inventory. On the data side, we receive audience files from a co-op to identify the specific individuals in an acquisition model or donor list, and then we match them with a digital profile in the ad exchange. Then on the sell side are the networks and publishers selling their ad space. And again, we meet in the middle in the ad exchange, and like any other auction, the highest bidder wins. Now, others do offer programmatic and CTV media buying, but we do have 4 key differentiators here at More. So many simply use basic demographic or pre-built audiences. We use your donor data with the power of SimioCloud to build custom audiences. And they use their algorithms and machine learning to just identify the people most likely to donate. The second is that we do this in-house. We have our own seat at the trade desk, which means we're hands on keys with real-time access to performance. So we can quickly make changes and optimizations in real time, which has proven to improve results. third key differentiator is our ability to leverage our linear relationships to secure reduced rates, CPMs, and inventory that's just not available on the open ad exchange. And then finally, we negotiated a special partnership with our onboarding vendor to secure exhaust data from the trade desk. So Simeo, our data co-op, can get impressions and conversion just to continuously improve our models. It really is a feedback loop. And this is an example of how this process works from a user perspective. Let me click this. So here I clicked into ABC News, and as I'm scrolling, you'll learn a couple of things about me. So previously visited Save the Children website and I'm being retargeted. And I was previously looking at pants and now I'm being retargeted as well. So, the reason I saw those ads is because of what was happening in the background. And, I'm sure you've all seen this before, that gray bottom that was just running and this left-hand corner, that's this process. Those are data and inventory calls from various supply side vendors. And this is just that technology in action for all those advertisers bidding in real time to reach me. Okay, so now I'll go into why right now is the perfect time to add CTV into your advertising mix. So, CTV has been around since 2002, but as you all know, it was 2020 that really changed the television landscape forever and cemented streaming television into the daily lives of most Americans, especially in the 55 plus demo, and it's just really where it hit critical mass. And according to Nielsen, in July of 2022, streaming actually overtook broadcast and cable in terms of time spent with television, which is huge. Now, U.S. households subscribe to 9 streaming services. This is primarily because subscribers are trading down their ad-free plan tiers, so they can have two streaming services for the price of one ad-free subscription, which just gives us more opportunities to target those individuals. Now, 80% of streamers watch ad-supported content each week, and according to a streaming report by Hub Entertainment Research, 69% of those who saw relevant ads enjoyed their streaming experience versus 48% where the ads weren't relevant. So, viewers don't mind seeing ads, but they do need them to be relevant. So the 18 to 24 demo, Gen Z, it's the generation streaming the most, followed by millennials, which gives us advertisers the ability to target just a younger demo than we otherwise could through cable, which does skew a little older. And one other piece that's important to just consider when you're looking at your broader television mix is what audiences do you have the ability to reach. So here's the ethnic profile for linear television. 2/3 are white, with over a quarter either Hispanic or Black. Now compare that to streaming services like Tubi TV and Pluto. It's completely inverse, where over half are Hispanic or Black. And so, there's just this opportunity to expand your reach beyond linear television, if you're already running DRTV, and really lean in and target those diverse audiences that you couldn't otherwise reach. So there are actually 3 buckets of inventory included in a CTV campaign: live streaming, video on demand, and free TV. So first is live streaming, especially through virtual cable providers like Sling or DirecTV Stream. The majority of Americans have cut the cord, but they don't cut cable. They swap a cable box for an app. So now we can place a CTV buy like a cable buy and really hone in on specific networks and content verticals like news networks, and it feels like a national placement. Second group is what we're all most familiar with. It's the video on demand, and this includes the bingeable and original content on platforms like Hulu and Paramount Plus, Peacock. And this category also includes the ads you see when you like log into your network app with your cable credentials. And unlike a streaming service, these network apps are included in your cable subscription without a monthly fee, and they function like an on-demand section of your old cable box. So like when you enter your Comcast or DirecTV Stream account information, you can access this like full library of video on-demand content, which is ad supported. Then finally, we have free TV. It's also called freemium or fast, free ad-supported television. And this is actually the fastest growing sector of streaming television, especially in the 55 plus demo. Likely for two reasons. First, it's free. The average household is already paying over $100 per month on video content. And second, this tends to have like an older library of content that resonates well with the older demo. And this includes like Pluto TV and Tubi TV, and now services like Peacock and Sling also getting into the game with like offering limited ad-supported content for free. So yeah, all this is important because it's all ad-supported and can be part of this one-to-one targeted programmatic campaign.
All right, before we dive into targeting strategies, any questions about what Preston just spoke about? Feel free to put it in the chat. All right. Well, okay, let's dive into targeting strategies. So really the beauty of programmatic media and connected TV is the power of video storytelling with precision of digital media. And there's lots of different goals that we can help nonprofits achieve with connected TV and programmatic media. And they can happen and be achieved at once as well. So we can help with fundraising through these ads, emergency response, lead generation, raising awareness for your brand, advocacy, and event participation, just to name a few. And we've identified some keys to success. So definitely we want to make sure that we have the right audience. That's critical to success. And how we do that is through Simeo Cloud, which is our data co-op. We're able through that co-op to model for the right audiences. And then we're able to give them the right offer with a specific call to action. Then we, of course, put that out there through an omni-channel strategy to enhance those results wherever those folks are living online. We can find them typically. And then we want to make sure that there's a journey that's consistent with key moments that are important to your organization that will deliver the greatest impacts. We really build out that journey. And let's talk about that journey a little bit too. So for example, if we are trying to get more sustainers in the door for you, or mid-level donors, moving people up through the funnel, we want to first start with identifying those top candidates through those models. So for example, then sustainer, folks that are qualified to become sustainers or new prospects, they might receive invitations and monthly giving opt-ins across different channels. So that can be with display, that can be with connected TV. Then, of course, they're going to be upgraded to sustainer giving or making a qualifying gift. We'll want to thank and welcome them to the community of monthly supporters or mid-level donors across various channels. And then we might give them a reduced cadence that's tailored to wherever they are in their journey. So cultivation communications like impact reports, upgrade renewal offers, and then of course we're going to continue to maximize lifetime value for them. So basically what Simeo allows us to do is find the right people for the various offers that we're going after, and then we can find them online through whatever channel that they are that they are on. So again, whether that's surfing the web, connected TV, in their inbox, all of that, we want to provide a surround sound experience. And there's 4 key targeting strategies, and these can be used individually or combined. So acquisition is one way we've been talking about. Again, taking those semio-targeted prospective donors based on characteristics of your current donors and your campaign objectives. We can also, we've had a lot of success with reactivation. So taking those semio-scored lapsed donors and identifying those that are most likely to re-engage by analyzing their other donation activity, perhaps to other nonprofits, and also their ability to give, among very many other data points as well. We've also had a lot of success with renewals and upgrades, as I mentioned, upgrading to sustainers, renewing folks, getting a larger gift, getting them to become mid-level donors. So improving retention and those upgrade opportunities. And then we'll talk a little bit about co-targeting. So we can combine connected TV and programmatic with other acquisition efforts like email, direct mail, or telemarketing to increase response rates on those channels as well. So let's talk a little bit further about what are co-targeting campaigns, because we've seen a lot of success with this. Media campaigns, generally, this is what they are, that are targeting and measuring the same audience on a one-to-one basis across more than one media channel simultaneously. So traditionally, you've probably all heard and perhaps conducted tests around co-targeting direct mail with programmatic display. So we see a lot of success with that. It really lifts response in direct mail. But co-targeting can also be done across any number of channels. So you can target email with connected TV very successfully to lift response in email. Face-to-face. So as folks are out there trying to get new sustainers in person, you can geo-target and geo-fence streaming audio ads, for example. So we've done a lot of that successfully too. Also, you can co-target connected TV with peer-to-peer texting. So really, any way you can think of where you might want to lift results or test into whether you can lift results on your key direct response, last click channels, direct response channels, we can test into that. And typically we've seen really, really great results in lifting your response on those channels. So just an example, of direct mail co-targeting. So if we have a goal to generate lift in direct mail, we've seen on average a 30 to 50% increase in response rates from an acquisition audience, 8 to 15% increase in average gift, a 5 to 20% increase in response rate from active and lapsed audiences, which is really remarkable considering direct mail is becoming more expensive and has become more expensive. You know, we're always trying to figure out ways that we can lift those results and help out nonprofits with that really important investment. And then as far as reporting, the way we're able to prove that out is once that campaign has been completed, we typically have a 30-day look back window. And once that's ended, and the client, the nonprofit, has provided a transaction update, we'll run a matchback report to show the lift in performance of the test group. So those are people that received the display ads or connected TV ads over the control group. So those are people that did not receive display ads. So we hold out usually about 10% of the audience to make sure that we can show you whether there's a lift, and typically there is. Any questions about targeting strategies or anything else before we dive into creative considerations?
Question about the response rates. Do the response rates include digital response, or is it people responding to the mail piece?
So it would include both. Our matchback kind of breaks it out both by source code for direct mail and digital. So, and then we show a combined, what is the increase in.
Great. Any
Great.
other questions? For some reason, I can't see the chat, so let me know if there are.
Yep. No, that's the only question so far.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Jen, who is amazing at creating the types of ads that really get people to respond and convert. So let's talk a little bit about that fun stuff.
Thank you. We didn't practice that. I thought we used fabulous instead of amazing, but thank you. I'm just kidding.
Fabulous. Fabulous too, and amazing.
So one of the first questions that we get asked when we start any project for CTV is what kind of story do we feature? And to answer that, we ask ourselves a few key questions. And the first is, will it capture attention? The first few seconds of a CTV spot are the most important. So if you're familiar with direct mail, it's like the envelope. It doesn't matter what kind of goodies you have inside. If you can't get that envelope open, you know, all that investment on the inside won't matter. And then the same in email too. If you can't get past the subject line, you can't get someone to open it, it doesn't matter how much time you spent on that email. So that hook is what pulls you in, and it's similar to CTV. The intro is critically important to capture and sustain attention. We spend a lot of time on the first few seconds of a CTV spot. And the beauty of the CTV spots is that we use the full experience of video. So visuals, audio, graphics, and music all working together to give us different ways to capture attention. By the way, with any organization we work with, we comb through your existing footage to find the very best story to tell. And if there aren't any existing stories that we think we can work with, we'll get creative and we'll create a story arc using images, graphics, music, and voiceover. On this screen that you're seeing here is our look at the story approach itself. We know that people remember stories and not stats, and that's because stories are where the emotion is. When Adva just talked about the lift and co-targeting, you know, the working theory is someone saw the spot, remembered the emotion of the spot, and that direct mail or that email just gave them an opportunity to give. Powerful CTV spots tell a story visually, like this really compelling visual that you're seeing here, and we package it in a compelling narrative. And one thing we love to do is tell the story through the point of view of someone who was helped. Those are authentic voices that can really carry the story and be quite powerful. Like the story of the person that you're seeing on screen is Jeff, who is someone who was helped by American Heart Association, and we filmed his story for that spot. And we will hear his story and his authentic voice a little bit later in the webinar in one of our case studies. Then we ask ourselves if viewers can relate to the story, and that's because people respond to what they can relate to. So if there's a connection to us as viewers, we pay more attention. And that relatability could be being a parent. It could be loving animals. It could be having a relative who's a veteran. If there's anyone on the call today who is in the creative area of work, you might be paying more attention to my section because there's a connection. So there's lots of connections we can make. And so pulling the right levers in terms of how we construct the story in the CTV spot is what will ignite emotion and action by the viewer. And speaking of emotion, I always use a personal gut check to measure how powerful a story is. And I ask myself, and this works across channels, I ask myself, does this story make me feel first and think second? So feel first and think second. And at the end of the day, that's what we want stories to do. We want them to make you feel something, that make you feel inspired, make you feel empowered to do something, to take action, which we hope will be to make a donation or to engage somehow. Because we know that emotion leads to action, and stories are what you remember. And this is really important because when we retarget someone with a display ad that's been paired with the CTV spot, the viewer is more likely to then click on it because they remember the power of that spot. You remember how you felt. And by the way, it's not just the visuals, it's not just the lines in the spot. Music can really help convey emotion beautifully as well. The most available inventory, another question we get asked is, how long are these CTV spots? So the most available inventory is 30 seconds and 15 seconds. And that is really a short amount of time to pull a viewer in, have them stay engaged, show a clear need, and of course, a clear solution that they can make possible. And to put it in context, a 30-second script is less than 90 words. It goes by really, really fast. And because of how fast the spots play out, we look at every frame, every word, every note, every graphic of every CTV spot that we produce to carefully ensure each part is doing its job. As mentioned, the story is hugely important, but we want viewers and donors to know what we are asking them to do. But like that can't get lost. That's the whole point. So the case for support has to be very, very clear in CTV spots. What are you asking me to do? What need can I help solve for? What impact will my gift make? And so in this screenshot that you're seeing here from a CTV spot, we're showing the action, the impact of food being packed together. So these are all things that we need to quickly convey given how short our time is in the CTV spots. And that's why a clear call to action is really important, and actually multiple ways to take action. So we recommend a lower third that you'll see in one of the examples that we're going to show, and it's just a lower third graphic along the spot, along the bottom of the screen, and there's a URL that is up the entire time. That's the largest thing you see. We can also use pop-up graphics to drive action. And at the end of the spot, we always have an end frame that has the URL nice and large because readability is key, and we'll often voice it as well. And we can also add a QR code to drive to donation forms as well. In fact, in one of the spots we just created for a climate first organization, we directed one of the people in the spots to point their finger down, and then we popped in that QR code right at the end. So we really called attention to it, an interaction between the graphics and the actual person in the spot. So what are the must-haves for CTV? What are these creative considerations? Well, we need it to be engaging and keep viewers' attention, super important. We need it to have your logo and URL so viewers know who you are and what to do. We want a clear call to action, especially at the end, so viewers remember where to go. We want to make sure we're taking full advantage of audio and music and sound and visuals, the entire video experience. And for the best response, we want at least 30-second spots that we will supplement with display ads and, if we can, 15-second spot inventory. And for the best experience, we want to make sure that the donation form and display ads that go along with the actual spot are integrated. We want that to feel like a seamless experience. So using creative continuity from spot to display ad to donation form, it just feels integrated. So let's look at an example of how this can come together with this spot from Shriners Hospital for Children.
Time to get up, sweetie. Most people might not think much about all the little things they do every day. But for me, just being able to do those little things is the best part of my day. Ready, Mom? And it's all because of my amazing friends at the Shriners Hospitals for Children and people like you. Please call or go online right now to give.
So now Caleb, who you just saw in the Shriners spot, is memorable because he's not only the star, he's the storyteller, which makes this super authentic. And you can see here in this slide, the clear integration that I just mentioned of our Shriner star Caleb, from the spot to direct mail that you're seeing on here to display ads to the donation form. So he's the through line, really. He's the star and the storyteller of the spot. And we all know that repetition breeds recognition. So we not only want to give donors multiple points of entry for their donation, we want them to do so because they remember the emotional power of that spot. And just a note here on testing, we always love to test and learn what's working in CTV. And here's one example of a very simple test that we did for the Humane Society. We tested their CTV ad with and without a very prominent QR code. So you probably are used to seeing the QR codes kind of popped in and nestled in a corner. This really made that QR code, incredibly clear. And we found that in this case, it did actually improve response. But caveat here, as with all channels, is we always recommend testing because what holds true for one organization may not hold true for another.
Jen, one thing I know people typically have questions on is, do we need to go out and shoot new footage? Can we use footage that we have? Should we use stuff we have on YouTube? What are some of those considerations?
So when we work with an organization where they're already doing linear TV, so direct response TV that you're going to see on non-streaming platforms like the Weather Channel or something like that, we will typically take those spots and cut them down into 30 and 15-second CTV spots. For those who are not doing that, we do tend to start with existing footage that you already have. So we like to kind of comb through YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, and look for existing stories. Very often organizations have on their social media sites on YouTube existing footage that we can use for 15 and 30-second spots. And we work with you to put graphics together, music. So the short answer is no, we don't have to film. Filming can get quite expensive. So we really like to start from a place of existing footage and find the most compelling stories that you have that are available. And if you don't, we can still work with you to kind of put a story arc together using music and voiceover and sound and new script lines.
Yeah, and I think one thing we've talked about before is, sometimes I've seen people try to take just a general video that they have on YouTube or that they've used in video ads in general, and put that in connected TV. And that's not typically the best way to go about it, because as you said, right, we need to make sure that it has compelling voiceover and music and those lower thirds and calls to action. It's a very unique format, and there's kind of a formula we found to what works in this particular channel. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there are definitely things that are sort of the best practices here to form that story arc, to lead people into giving, and all of the things that I just went over, having an interesting hook, having a clear call to action. So let's say an organization came to us and said, hey, we've used this on social and we really like it. We'd evaluate it. We'd kind of go through a lot of those questions that I just went through, take a look at it, and we would essentially deconstruct the video assets that we have available and put them back together in a way that makes the most sense, that we know are going to drive to the campaign goals and, to getting viewers to respond.
Great. Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
And then we have a question. Yes. So one of the things that we've seen in linear television often is that 120 seconds is more effective than 90 seconds. How do you get and distill a pitch so quickly down to a 30 or even a 15-second spot to make it effective?
Great question. It is really hard to do. It is really, really hard to tell a good story in a short amount of time. It's much easier when you have a lot of real estate and space. And that is why we look at every word, the economy of every script line, and has to pack a punch. Visuals and music really go a long way too in CTV spots. So it's not just the lines and the script that we put together, but we put the most powerful sequences together that we can to really telegraph quickly what's going on. It's not easy to do. It definitely isn't easy to do, but
well, that's why we have you and your team, Jen.
I didn't want to toot our own horn too loudly, but we've really got great experts who are masters at this, and can quickly size up and figure out what are the best parts of footage to cut down into a CTV spot.
Yeah, and we've even seen Preston, right? The 15 seconds has been working really, really well. And we've even had cut downs of 6 seconds work really well too.
Very, very, very true. And it's like, it goes like that, but you're looking for the visually, what is the most compelling? And it's like, need solution. That's like your 6 seconds. And so, but they work.
That.
And it really opens inventory that we can otherwise access when we add all these different links too. So it's really helpful.
Well, great. Let's talk about how we measure that impact then.
All right. So I'll go into how we measure the effectiveness of our CTV campaigns and what we report on. So, while CTV isn't a direct attribution channel, we can quantifiably see the impact it has on other digital channels, and just really the ability to measure the impact of our programmatic efforts on these other conversion channels is just key to understanding the overall impact of your digital investment. And more importantly, we can really close this attribution gap that previously existed between programmatic campaigns like CTV and in other paid efforts in Google, Bing, and Facebook. So now I'll walk through how data is collected and what reporting looks like. So let's start with the tracking pixel. It's that small snippet of code that's placed on your website, and I'm sure you're all familiar with your Google Analytics tag that allows us to capture information about your visitors, how they browse, if they converted, what types of ads they've clicked on, and how they get to the website and their conversion path. And so, that's how we're capturing the information. And for all of our programmatic campaigns, we always have, before we launch any programmatic campaign, we always have two pixels placed, one for traffic and one for conversion. So the traffic pixel is placed on every page of your site and will identify website visitors, which is really important for both retargeting and modeling. And the conversion pixel has what we call dynamic parameters that capture transaction specifics like transaction ID, gift frequency, gift amount, and even the form ID, and create audiences based on this conversion pixel. So, for example, we could have an audience segment of one-time donors based on the pixel that's just automatically updating, and we can target them with a sustainer ask. Or we could take people who have donated monthly based on the pixel and create a modeled / lookalike audience for prospecting new sustainers. So we use these not just for reporting, but for targeting as well. So for reporting, it's first important to identify the campaign KPIs, key performance indicators, whether that's traffic or conversions, which we're always tracking to in real time. Now, for all of our fundraising campaigns, we're always optimizing to maximize revenue and return on ad spend, and also lift in other the conversion rate in other digital channels. And with like pilots and branding campaigns, we're also looking at the impact on brand metrics as well. And like I said before, like a key piece of this is measuring the impact on other digital channels. So we take a full view at the campaign impact, break down the barriers into walled gardens like Meta and Google, to assess the conversion rates across paid social, paid search, and email for those exposed to our campaigns versus the channel average. And this is what we typically see for a CTV program, where there's a 5 to 10x lift in conversion rate from those exposed to our programmatic campaigns versus those not exposed. So another question we get quite often is, how long does it take to determine success TV program? So, it's important to give your campaign enough time to not only deliver the ads, but also measure the results generated during the full attribution window. Otherwise, you're just not getting really a full picture of how well your CTV campaign is doing. So looking at prospecting and retargeting as a whole, you'll want to gauge results after 75 days of the campaign running. As you can see, like the return on ad spend really accelerates over those first 75 days. Now, if you're just running to like a prospecting audience, then it would take a little longer. You'll want to evaluate success maybe after 90 days. But if you're just running to like a retargeting audience, then it could be a shorter time frame. And for if your goal is CPA, cost per acquisition, then you'll want to evaluate success after 90 days. As you can see, there's just a substantial decrease over those first 3 months. Again, it would be longer if you're just targeting prospecting, and shorter if you're just targeting retargeting audiences. So for every CTV program that we run, we also run a brand lift study to measure metrics like awareness, favorability, ad recall, consideration, and recommendation that are not as conversion focused, but do give a better picture of how well your CTV campaign is generating awareness and just resonating with people. And we're able to see the lift not just at the campaign level, but by audience, tactic, and creative strategy. And like everything else, we're tracking this in real time. The brand lift study also gives what the lift is by demo, so age and gender. So if you're wanting to appeal to like a younger audience, then we can see how well your campaign is doing and which creative any effect on that age group. So overall, we can see not only what the conversion lift is on other channels, but the impact on awareness you're having on specific audiences and demos.
Any questions about that so far, about measuring the impact and how we do that? All right, feel free to put in the chat. Nick, did I see, was there a question? Came off mute for a
Nothing that I'm
second.
seeing in the chat or the Q&A, but keep those questions coming. Thanks.
All right, awesome. Well, let's talk about getting started and typically what a feasibility test for connected TV looks like with us. So usually we want a budget of around 100K to 140K. So that's all in. That would include media, that would include creative production, and then you would have an evergreen investment as well after that. That would be for usually 3 months or so for a feasibility test. This is for folks who haven't done connected TV before and really need to see whether it is a good investment for your budget. Typically in those 3 months, we would expect about 1.7 million impressions. Again, the flight dates would usually be about 3 months. And then usually in month 3, we're going to work with you to figure out whether, again, the feasibility test was successful and whether we should continue for the rest of your fiscal or calendar year, whatever you go off of. Usually the projected ROAS is 0.85 to 1.12. So depending again on whether this is a prospecting play or whether this is more renewals or sustainer upgrades, that would change the ROAS that we'd expect. And then also, of course, those first few months, as Preston said, it's really a way for us to gather the data and learn what works with your audience for your specific goals. So typically longer term, if we go beyond the feasibility test, then we kind of stabilize that ROAS and we're able to really be optimized for your goals and conversions. And again, usually the goal would be to generate revenue and conversions. This is a typical launch timeline. So if you're doing that 3-month feasibility test, the first 6 to 8 weeks prior to launch, we want to make sure that we have the tracking pixels in place so that we can start collecting data from your website, so that we can retarget folks as well and see, the types of folks that are coming to your website so we can target in the best way possible. We'll also want you to submit your donor files for modeling, for scoring, depending on what those goals are. We'll, of course, work with Jen and her team to create that video, to create display assets as well that will go hand in hand with the connected TV ad. And then we'll onboard your audiences to our programmatic ad platform as well. So that typically takes about 6 to 8 weeks before we launch. Then once we launch, first month, we're going to focus on, typically we might be focusing on the prospecting pool to generate awareness. And then we'd also work on increasing that retargeting pool, so driving people to your website. And usually within 3 weeks into the test, that's where we'll start providing you with initial results, and then every week thereafter. Month 2, we're going to typically focus on increasing consideration. So again, taking people through the marketing funnel, which we'll talk about in a little bit here too. We'll continue to refine the strategy to maximize conversions. And then month 3, we're going to increase that focus on conversion. So now, we've gone through awareness, brand raising, they're aware of your program, they've seen you on Connect TV and in display ads. Now they've already gotten other omni-channel communication so that they learn more about your mission and organization and are more top of mind. So now we're ready to really convert them more. And this is where also we'll assess the lift, for example, on your search channel, social, and email, which of course are kind of the bread and butter channels where people will convert. And then we'll continue to refine targeting and creative to maximize that performance. And during this time, again, we'll also work with you to establish what an evergreen program looks like. All right, before we dive into some case studies, any questions?
Yes, we have a couple of questions. Looking at these spots, you talked about the timeline that comes out for it. What about emergency TV spots? Like, let's say, and not that this would ever happen, there's a pandemic or an invasion of a large sovereign nation by another one, or a huge impact that causes food insecurity. How would you respond quickly?
Yeah, I can take that, Adva. Actually, I would say that that's something that we package up in an evergreen approach. And I say evergreen because the way to do it really efficiently is to create a couple of emergency spots for an organization and make sure that it's sort of modular so that when there's a specific emergency that happens, we can maybe bookend the spot with a couple of images from that emergency, have like a little graphic pop up that says, like earthquake emergency or, global food, food shortage. But essentially you have an emergency spot. Why do you want to have that ready to go and packaged up and modular? Because speed to market, timing is everything during an emergency. So to be able to turn things around quickly and get it out is one of the most important things you can do, as you know, in an emergency. And in fact, we've done that pretty successfully for several of our clients. Good question.
Yeah, great question.
Yep. Another question, and I'll try to read this verbatim. Are there certain verticals, faith-based, animal welfare, etc., of the market for which you've seen better responses than others? And what sectors do you think have underutilized CTV as a tactic?
That's a really interesting question. Preston, also feel free to answer, but we've really seen success across pretty much every vertical. What really makes an ad successful is really going back to what Jen talked about. We want to make sure that we are able to tell a quick, compelling, emotional story that really connects with the viewer and that feels timely also, I would say, to what's going on in the world, to what people are seeing top of mind in the media around them. So if we can make that connection, generally we would have success. I would say we're finally starting to see more environmental organizations dive into connected TV. I think that sometimes those kinds of evergreen asks when there's, a problem or an issue that they're trying to solve that's much more, longer term or global, it can be challenging to make the case as to why it's urgent to give now. But we're starting to see success in that formula as well. Preston, any thoughts there?
Yeah, we're seeing success across the board. I do want to now, for like the smaller organizations versus the larger ones, when they just get started, the larger ones have more CRM data, first party data, so that it allows us to ramp up a little quicker where we see immediate success. Now the smaller ones, we need to build up, retargeting pools, build up that awareness, and then we pretty much see the same level of success as the larger ones in terms of like return on ad spend after a period of time. So whether large or small, different verticals, we see a success across the board.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, just in general for smaller nonprofits versus like the big brands, right? You might need to invest longer term before you really start seeing kind of the fruits of your labor. But that's, I think, the case across all channels and all marketing with nonprofits that are, very known to the US market, for example, versus ones that maybe their brand isn't as known. So it just sometimes takes time to build that brand and understanding of what it is that you do and how you're helping people, animals, whatever your mission is. But that's what's also the beauty of connected TV, is that it can really, really help get your brand out there and establish you as an important organization that people should support. All right, great questions. Thank you for that. Let's talk about, let's go through some case studies here. So we'll start with American Heart Association. And they came to us with a small number of organically acquired monthly donors and wanted to really formally launch a sustainer acquisition program. So we run their digital sustainer program. And so we used Simio Cloud Connect to uncover key findings in a data discovery audit. And we resolved identities of folks that we figured out would be really great targets for sustainer giving, so that we got their information from their CRM, we got it from our co-op database, we got it from our programmatic ad platform and lots of other sources of data, and we're able to basically find where they are online. And then we built those models to identify prospects for sustainer acquisition that way, again, based on all of the information you see here that we have access to: demographics, retail purchases, interests, voter information, everything that we have in that co-op database and more. And then we built those models to identify the opportunities for one-time donor upgrading. So this is, I'm sure, funnel you're all aware of. You've seen this before. This is a digital sustainer typical funnel, although we all know now it's more of like an infinity loop than a funnel. People, they might see a DRTV ad. They might then go to your website. They might then see a CTV ad. So the funnel isn't necessarily linear this way, but typically this kind of makes it easy to think of. So we have the top of funnel awareness channels you'll see here. And those are the channels really we're talking about right now that will help drive folks to the mid funnel, where they'll engage more with your content, and then hopefully get them to that bottom of funnel for conversion across your other direct response channels. So let's take a look at what that looked like for AHA in real life. So this is the top of funnel. This is where we had DRTV and Connect TV ads, which will show you the spot in just a second. We also had these beautiful GIF display ads that went along with the Connected TV and DRTV ads. And these were lovely ads done by Jen and her team. Really cool with that kind of heartbeat monitor graphic there. And again, so these follow the same people that have seen the CTV ad. They follow them online. So that way, again, it's really one-to-one marketing and targeting. And then we created these information and native ad landing pages as well. So let's take a look at this ad so you can get a feel for it.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Join the fight to find and fund the next life-saving breakthrough. Donate now and your first month's gift will be matched.
Yeah, and that ad actually won an award. We're really proud of that. Again, just a very compelling ad that got their mission across really quickly and in a very emotional way that really connected with donors. So then, of course, that drove folks to their website for further engagement. So there was also a sustainer upgrade email that we sent out to make sure they had that surround sound. There were those information landing pages that we talked about. And then we also did some TikTok lead generation as well, and had some survivor landing pages that people were able to connect directly with folks who had survived heart attacks or strokes. And then finally, the bottom of funnel. This is where we see the money coming in for conversion. So we had these player card direct conversion ads. We also had these ways to give landing pages, monthly donor landing pages. We also, of course, optimized search to make sure that when people were becoming more aware of American Heart Association and wanted to donate, they could really quickly find them. And then also optimize their fundraise up widget to make sure that it was a really seamless path to conversion for folks. And then last but not least, I thought this was really cool. They created a digital sustainer retention and cultivation program too, because of course we want to keep these donors, we want to keep them giving and up their long-term value. So they created this community called the Heartbeat Community, and folks could get first looks at breakthrough research on heart disease and stroke, discoveries made possible by their support, lifestyle tips, recipes, and stories from others in the heart community, which was really cool. And then, of course, there was a Sustainer community homepage. Again, more content for them to interact with. And really important, of course, I think we all know, just to continuously show our donors how their gift is impacting people, real people's lives. And I'll hand it over to Preston to talk about DAV and a case study there.
Yep. So yeah, a second test we did was with disabled American veterans. We wanted to see if targeting new to file donors immediately would improve the time to a second gift, and also increase the likelihood for them to upgrade to become a monthly donor. So what we did was actively target online donors in the first 7 days after they gave their initial gift, using CTV, video, and display. And the results were very successful. It delivered a 3.39 return on ad spend in the first month, and also 21% of the donors upgraded to become a sustainer, which is a very high percentage. So I'll just quickly show the spot here that we ran. It was called Thank You Booth.
I'm with Disabled American Veterans. I was wondering if you had a quick minute to thank America's veterans for their service and sacrifices.
Sure.
All right.
I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You can say thank you to our nation's heroes by going to helpdav.org right now and give just $19 a month.
I get to live every day, in peace because of you.
Please go online to helpdav.org right now. Your support says thank you to our nation's disabled American veterans.
Yeah, and that spot did very well and had all the best practices that Jennifer went over.
Yeah, and what I really love about that spot, again, as you can see in there, it's more than just an ad. There was also a full experience that went along with that campaign. And that experience was captured in this ad. So, they were at malls, interacting with people, engaging with people around their mission, asking them to thank veterans. Of course, what a great way to generate leads and connect people with the mission and have them learning more about what it is that they do. So it was a really wonderful example of that kind of surround sound campaign as well. All right, we're done with the formal presentation, but definitely would love to answer any other last questions people have.
I know we're at the hour mark. Thank you for joining if you need to jump off right now, but we did have one question in the chat, and we'd love to answer any questions until folks are done with those. You can catch up with these on the recording. So one question that we had is, those were a couple of great case examples of national organizations that were going in. How does a CTV campaign work for a local organization, say food bank, rescue mission, cultural institution, that sort of?
Yes. I can take it from like a campaign perspective. So we, we run a lot of the same audiences we do for a national campaign, and we've seen a lot of success with those. Now, for those campaigns, we do place a geographical focus, so we geofence our campaigns to reach those specific institutions, but you know, a lot of the same audiences in terms of like lookalikes based on the pixel, retargeting website, landing page. We employ a lot of the same tactics as a national buy and see the similar results.
Yep. And I agree, from the creative perspective, it's no problem at all to do it. And you know, as we all know, the more you sort of hyper localize, you know, the better the results. And so what's great about being able to do that locally is to directly call out in the spot, you know, hey, Chicago, you know, hey, St. Louis or whatever, you know, hey, Tulsa, and talk about helping your neighbors in Tulsa or things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly it. I mean, the more you can localize, oftentimes you'll see even better results because it feels personal to people. So great question.